Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Mike Lindell at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Vice President Kamala Harris, almost 24 hours after we learned of the results, finally yesterday, conceded the presidential race. She gave a speech around 4 p.m. yesterday afternoon. We have the highlights for you. And the post-election analysis has started, with the Democrats trying to determine, well, what exactly happened? And it's not hard. They had the wrong candidate and the wrong issues. They could have called me. I would have told them. They were totally out of touch with the American people. We're going to break some of that down for you as well. President-elect Donald Trump is expected to get to work immediately upon taking office, enacting some major changes on immigration, energy, and foreign policy. We'll talk about that some today, too. And the watch for who may play some of the major roles in a new Trump administration. Who will hold some of the key cabinet positions? Who do you think? Text, email me your thoughts. Joey at joeyhudson.com.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson Bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson Bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
So Vice President Kamala Harris, in her first public comments since she lost the 2024 White House race to former President Donald Trump, urged supporters yesterday afternoon to, quote, accept the results, acknowledging that our system of government requires a peaceful transfer of power.
Now, I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power. A fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. That principle, as much as any other, distinguishes democracy from monarchy or tyranny. And anyone who seeks the public trust must honor it. At the same time, in our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States. And loyalty to our conscience and to our God. My allegiance to all three is why I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign.
Harris made the point to emphasize that while she was conceding the election, she was not conceding the fight, as she described it. The vice president spoke at Howard University, her alma mater, where her campaign held a large election night watch party, and very similar to 2016 when Hillary Clinton failed to show up at the Javits Center in New York City. Kamala Harris failed to show up at Howard University Tuesday night. Her campaign chairman came out and made the announcement that they were calling it an evening and encouraged everybody to go home. The vice president, who walked to the podium one last time to Beyoncé's Freedom, the song that had become her unofficial anthem, noted near the top of her, it was about 12 minutes, her address, that, quote, "My heart is full today," she said, admitting that Tuesday's outcome was not exactly what she and her supporters had hoped for.
My heart is full today. My heart is full today full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up, and as long as we keep fighting.
As the vice president was speaking, you could look out across the crowd with various camera shots. I primarily was watching the Fox News feed. I also was able to see the MSNBC feed as well, which were totally different. And you could see the disappointment on the faces of so many. And I hated it for them. I tried to be somewhat compassionate for them. I also had to fight the feelings and the thoughts of, well, you know, you're not very smart if you're out there and you thought she had a chance. The vice president seemed to take aim at Trump a couple of times during her speech, who, of course, for 4 years, Trump has questioned the 2020 loss to President Biden when she talked about the peaceful transfer of power. You knew she was talking about January 6th. That was one of her last parting shots at Donald Trump. She emphasized that a fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. Well, you do if there's not evidence that things were done that weren't supposed to have happened. Harris, who for most of this year thought that she was going to be on the ballot Tuesday as the vice president, as Joe Biden's running mate. Everything changed dramatically for her due to Joe Biden's disastrous debate performance against Trump in late June. And again, someday I want to know the whole story there. I want to know if she was in on the idea or in with the group who convinced Joe Biden to do a debate that early in the season. I wonder if she was part of the coup, if she knew that was going to happen. She was clearly not ready for the big stage. And in the coming weeks, the Democrats are going to slice it. They're going to dice it. They're going to study the returns. They're going to study the demographics. And it's going to be interesting to see if they're able to honestly admit to themselves they just messed up. They chose the wrong horse to put in the race. Now, maybe they didn't have another choice. Maybe they felt like at that time in the game that Kamala Harris had to be their nominee. I don't know, though. I mean, there's other folks that are more middle of the road in the Democrat Party who might have been a little tougher for Donald Trump to beat. I don't know that anybody could have beaten Donald Trump, though, because anybody would have had to put some distance between themselves and the Biden-Harris administration. And if you've got a D beside your name, that's kind of hard to do at this point, right? Be kind of hard for a Democrat to convince people that they weren't part of the disaster that we have lived for almost 4 years now. Kamala's chances at election victory came to a screeching halt very, very early, really, Tuesday. I mean, you could see the writing on the wall. Now, it took almost all night for the networks to come around, but I kind of saw it pretty early. Did you? The Democrat strategists are going to spend, as I mentioned, they're going to pour over all the voting data. They're going to try to figure out how Kamala Harris unraveled at the ballot box, I guess so that they can potentially be ready in 4 years. It's going to be interesting to watch. It's already been kind of fun. I think I've probably taken too much joy in this victory. I mean, did you happen to see Nancy Pelosi, who showed up for the speech yesterday as well? I mean, I think it's hard to tell. She had on dark glasses, but I'm not so sure that Nancy Pelosi wasn't shedding a few tears there. And I guess I can understand that. I mean, they worked hard, and it didn't come out exactly the way they wanted. And for Nancy Pelosi, it's a lot more personal because she really does hate Donald Trump. Nancy Pelosi was crying tears of hate because she knows now that she's got to play ball with the Republicans and with Donald Trump. And that's a hard pill for her to swallow. That's tough for Nancy Pelosi to admit that she's not going to be in charge anymore. The Daily Mail has a great piece yesterday, sort of analysis of some of the key moments and some of the key issues that you knew that Kamala Harris had just really made a major blunder. And there's actually too many for us to cover in this amount of time, in the time we have together. But coming up, I'm going to try to go through some of those as quickly as I can because some of them are worth mentioning for sure. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Email's always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. This year, I really thought I was going to have to boycott the holidays. I was going to lock myself away and not come out until 2025. But after finding PhD weight loss, you can bet I'll be at every holiday party I'm invited to. That's because PhD weight loss helped me take control with great confidence, support, and my new healthy body. The best part, PhD weight loss did it all without harmful drugs that keep you dependent on them to maintain your weight loss. It's a natural, medication-free approach to weight loss crafted to naturally diminish food-related thoughts, hunger, and cravings, making your weight loss journey more sustainable and enjoyable. Take it from me, I lost 33 pounds. The PhD weight loss program teaches you not just what to eat and when, but also how to think differently about food and finally let go of those cravings and get rid of the hunger naturally. Don't lock yourself away this holiday season. Call PhD Weight Loss today at 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or go to myphdweightloss.com. So when did it unravel for Kamala Harris, and when did you know that it had unraveled for Kamala Harris? Was there ever a time over these past few weeks that you just knew Donald Trump was going to win it? That you just knew Kamala Harris had blown it? I kept going back and forth. In my gut, I felt like that Donald Trump was going to win, and I felt like he was going to win big. But then I would start reading something that I probably shouldn't have read, and I'd start doubting myself again. I'd start doubting my political instincts. And I'm pretty good at reading through the lines at times. I mean, if you'll recall, I told you way back when, back in the spring, that Joe Biden's name would not be on the ballot this fall. You remember that? You remember me telling you that? Because I was never convinced that Biden was going to be capable of making it through this past Tuesday. And that came to light, didn't it? And again, I know without a doubt that somebody who Joe Biden trusted and probably should not have put him up to scheduling that early debate, knowing he was going to fail miserably, knowing that it would be just what they needed to push him out. Now, I don't know if they had the intentions of putting Kamala in or if they had the intentions of coming up with another candidate. But I really believe that there were some people at very high levels who did Joe Biden in by pushing him to do that debate. So let's fast forward. We have Kamala. She's the Democrat nominee. She hits the ground running. At what point did you know that she was totally in over her head? The Daily Mail has a great article about this. And they kind of highlight some of the decisions that was made in her campaign that have proven to be fatal. They probably at the time thought that they were good things, that they were protecting her. For example, refusing any hard interviews. Presidents, and I think people expect their president to be able to communicate. They expect their president to sit down and answer questions regardless of how hard they may be. Harris totally avoided opening her mouth literally for the first few weeks. She never did have a real press conference. She had some well-chosen interviews along the way, but she never stood there like Donald Trump has done many times and just answered questions until reporters stopped asking. She never did that. When she finally did sit down for a television interview, she did it with CNN's Dana Bash. Remember that? It was late August. She showed up with her running mate, Tim Walz. That was a bit of a surprise. Now, I'm sure they cleared it with CNN, but when I watched it that night, it had been all the promo about this sit down with Kamala Harris and Dana Bash, and then she's got a running mate with her. It's almost like she couldn't do it by herself. She did not have the courage to go into that interview by herself, so she takes her running mate with her. One of her most disastrous interviews was her sit down with Fox News' Bret Baier. And by this time, I'm sure she really didn't want to do that interview, but she could not avoid it. She had to do something with Fox News, and she had to do something with somebody who wasn't just automatically assumed to be a friendly voice for her campaign. She failed miserably. It was not until mid-September that she did her first solo interview, which was ABC News in the swing state of Pennsylvania. Now again, this was before the Fox News. I kind of got that out of order there. But this was just an example of how her campaign was picking and choosing who they put her in front of. They were managing their risk. So that was, I think, probably one of her major blunders, was just not being accessible and not answering the questions from the press, which I think led people not to trust her. And I think she sensed that too, because, these past couple of weeks, she talked about that you're still getting to know me. Well, we were trying to get her to know her. We're still getting to know her because she wasn't talking. She wasn't telling us who she was and what she planned to do. All right, so that's one issue. The other one was she's just goofy with her fake accent. Say what you will about Donald Trump, but you get when Donald Trump comes in the room, when he's on the stage speaking, when he's doing an interview, it's Donald Trump. That's it. There's no pretenses. With Kamala Harris, how many times did I share with you a speech where she was trying to sound like what she thought the audience wanted her to sound like? She had those various black dialects. She what is it? Jamaican and Indian descent. You can see her trying to change her accent on the campaign trail. The Saturday Night Live skit. Did you notice that sort of, I'm going to call it a fake hood dialect? She was trying to sound like a black person. Let's just say it. Put it out there. And she didn't do too good of a job of it. And then she finally decided, or somebody decided, well, she's got to do some interviews. And she started appearing on some of these podcasts. And it was a fatal mistake when she decided to be on this Call Her Daddy podcast. And this young woman and look, it's a very popular podcast among young women, has millions of subscribers. But it's not the type of podcast that a presidential candidate sits down with. It's not a serious podcast when it comes to presidential politics. And this young lady who's the host, Alexandra Cooper, she did not have a clue about how to do a political interview. She threw so many softball questions at Harris, it wasn't even funny. I mean, you could not pretend that this was a serious interview. You just couldn't do it. Then you had some of the issues that Trump was responsible for getting out there, like the McDonald's, when she claimed that she had worked at a McDonald's. And we all know why she claimed that, because she wants people to think, well, I'm just normal like you. When I was a teenager, I worked at McDonald's too. But she never could prove it. She never could prove that she had really worked at that McDonald's. And then, of course, Donald Trump really pressed her when he goes to a McDonald's, puts an apron on, and starts serving fries. And he said, I've worked 15 minutes longer at McDonald's than Kamala ever has, because he knew she never had worked there. Again, her campaign was poorly run, and all she can do is point her finger at herself. She can't blame anybody but herself and the American people for seeing right through her. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or maybe you're just upgrading, you're totally remodeling the kitchen, when it's time to get those new appliances, when you're ready for them, you don't want to have to wait weeks or even months to get started using them, right? Well, that's not the case when you shop with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse. With over 11,000 square feet and 1,500 appliances at any given time, you can buy today and use today quite often. I'm talking about shopping with my friends at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. It's worth the short drive over to Pickens. Jeff, Johnny, Kyle, the whole team over there, they'll take good care of you. They have an award-winning service department, expert installation, extended warranties, and at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they treat you like family. You're more than just a credit card swipe to all the team over there. Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they're proud to offer Speed Queen, the only washer and dryers with manufacturer's warranties that cover parts and labor. You owe it to yourself, if you're looking for a new appliance, to head over to Pickens to Discounted Appliance Warehouse online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. Before we move on, because I want to talk a minute about the new Trump administration and what I think we're going to see from Trump right out of the gate. One more thing on my list of Kamala major blunders, and that's happened on Election Day. Did you see where she pretended to be on a telephone call with a voter, and she turns her phone around? This is how dumb the woman is. She turns her phone around, kind of showing, look, I'm talking to this supporter, and it was on her camera, and people noticed it, and they immediately knew that she was faking a phone call. That kind of sums her campaign up. She is fake. Kamala Harris is a fake. And you don't fool the American people. She may think that we're a bunch of idiots, that we're a bunch of just country bumpkins, but you don't fool the American people, and she learned it the hard way. Too bad for her. All right, so as tough as the past few years has been, Donald Trump and his team literally have been working since Joe Biden took office to get to Tuesday. And you have to give Donald Trump credit. The man never gives up. And that's what I love about him, and that's why we should be so thankful that he hasn't given up on our country. So winning the election Tuesday, to a degree, in some respect, was the easy part. Now we have to govern. Now we have to go to work. Trump has to step up and accomplish the things that he has promised over these past few years. And it's not going to be quite as easy as some people may think. And the man can do stuff. The man can pull a rabbit out of the hat like nobody I've ever seen. But Joe Biden has got us into some tough situations. I mean, I don't quite know exactly how you tackle the inflation. But I'm happy that Donald Trump is going to be the one who's going to take a shot at it. I'm happy that he's going to be the one who's going to build a team, and we're going to start seeing that team come together very quickly. Now, obviously, they can't go to work until January. The new Congress has to be seated so that the Senate can start interviewing and approving his cabinet positions. But they've already indicated that they're going to do it quickly. We're not going to have what he what he had to deal with in 2016 when he had a Democrat controlled, or almost. Let's see. Actually, I guess the Republicans had a slight majority in the Senate, or did they? I can't remember. I have to look that up. Anyway, the Democrats were able to slow him down, to delay some of his initial appointments. So let's talk for a minute about what Donald Trump does first, because, again, he's going to go to work. We're going to start seeing some activity. Late last year, he suggested that he would not rule as a dictator, He did issue that with a caveat. He kind of smiled and said, well, except for day one, he said, because he's going to aggressively start implementing some changes to immigration that day one. You remember how Joe Biden so proudly talked about day one, how many of the executive orders he signed that reverse Donald Trump's policies on immigration? You're going to see the same thing from Donald Trump on day one. He's going to put a lot of those policies back in place, things that he can do with an executive order. In addition to immigration, which I think immigration will be his top priority, and economic policy to try to tackle inflation, he's indicated that he's going to very swiftly roll back protections for transgender youth. I think we're going to see him do what he can to protect women's sports. And he's also indicated that he's going to fire the man prosecuting a criminal case against him. That would be one Jack Smith. We'll see. So let's talk about immigration, because immigration, when you look at some of the exit polling on Tuesday, immigration was right up there at the top, just like the polls have been telling us for months that it was. That it was a big issue. I don't care what state you lived in. Obviously, it was a big issue for the border states, but it was a bigger issue everywhere. There's no such thing as a border state when you had the Biden administration over these past few years literally flying these people or busing these people into neighborhoods all around the country. So much of Trump's day one agenda, I think, will focus on cracking down on immigration. A senior campaign advisor, Jason Miller, said on NBC yesterday, he said all of the secure border policies that we had in place with President Trump, he can simply flip the switch and put those back in place just like they were before. At nearly every campaign rally this cycle, Donald Trump's prepared remarks included the line, on day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history. So what does that look like? How do you deport millions of people? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that one. That's going to be interesting to watch. And this is one of those things that I hope he already has a plan, because he certainly has promised that he's going to deport millions of people. So I hope he knows how he's going to do it, because that could be a major, major mistake if he's not able to accomplish that. Again, I get back to the winning the campaign was probably the easy part. Governing is going to be the hard. Carrying out such a massive deportation operation, which Trump has said will target those in the country illegally, and particularly those with criminal records, it will be a massive logistical nightmare. Because first off, you got to find them. Secondly, once you find them, you got to detain them until you can get them out of the country. And how do you get them out of the country? I mean, you could have a fleet of airplanes flying every day, and it would take you for a long, long time to get the millions of people back to where they came from. He said that he would rely on local police departments for assistance. But, of course, this is going to require massive coordination among local, state, and federal agencies. And it's going to be expensive, too. The American Immigration Council released an October study that found that a mass deportation effort aimed at removing 13 million immigrants in the country illegally would cost at least $315 billion. Now, on the flip side of that coin, we would save money in the long run, because we would that would be 10 million or what did I say, 13 million or so who aren't using our services, who aren't being a burden on our local hospitals, our schools. We wouldn't be spending some of the money we're spending on them otherwise. Other actions that President Trump may take immediately would likely rely on, again, his executive authority. He has said that he would sign an executive order on day one to stop federal agencies from giving automatic U.S. citizenship to the children of illegal aliens. This is an effort to end birthright citizenship, which would most likely face legal challenges. which, that's the other exciting thing. And I digress here for a minute, but to think about another 4 years of Donald Trump, and you think about the judiciary and the number of federal judges he'll be able to appoint in the next 4 years. We already have some good things that have happened because of Trump appointed judges 4 years ago. When he starts adding to that, and I hope Lindsey Graham and the Senate Judiciary Committee, they need to work 24/7 to start getting these judges in place. Strike while the iron is hot, as Nana Hudson used to say. We got to put as many conservatives on federal benches as we possibly can in the next 4 years, because that will have lasting effect. And then, of course, on the immigration issue, we'll want to see the wall starting back again, right? Pretty quickly. In order for him to be a success, we're going to have to see some visuals. We're going to have to see him going back, making some visits in some of these areas where Joe Biden literally just gave huge sections of the fence away that were lying on the ground, never been installed. First off, we're going to have to buy it again. That's criminal. Joe Biden should somehow have to repay that. He's going to have to come up with the money, though, to be able to get the materials to finish the wall, something he promised when he was first elected president. And then there's a whole list of other things that maybe aren't as top of mind to the average person, but things that need some attention. Energy and climate measures. Trump has pledged on day one, drill, baby, drill, he likes to say. That's one of his campaign slogans. Just about every campaign rally that I attended, and I went to quite a few, he would talk about drill, baby, drill. He's going to try to roll back regulations so that the American oil industry can start drilling, can start producing oil so that we can get gasoline prices back down. Now, I said a minute ago, I'm not quite sure how you tackle inflation. That is one way. If we can get the cost of fuel back down, then, as you know, everything we touch, every product we touch, at some point or the other is in the back of a truck. Some patriot driving that truck got it to the store, and it cost them fuel money to get it there. If we can get that down, a lot of things will come down. As I said, this is the hard part. It's kind of overwhelming, isn't it, to think about all the things that we have to do. And thank God, literally, that Donald Trump is the man in there to do it. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. I have gotten a lot of emails and text messages from you this week. Thank you. I love getting your text messages, your emails. And, of course, don't forget, you can always leave me a message, too, on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Always use promo code JOEY when you go to MyPillow.com and you take advantage of some of Mike Lindell's great prices. By the way, Mike Lindell, I saw him at Mar-a-Lago the other night. I think I told you that. He was right there in the middle of it. And, it's not out of the question that Mike Lindell could potentially play a role in the Trump administration as well. But anyway, keep those messages coming. I try to answer them all, but I'll have to admit I haven't been able to. Of course, I've been traveling. I traveled back in, got in late last night from Washington, D.C. We had a blast at the Heritage Foundation, and what an honor it was to be able to work out of the Rush Limbaugh radio studios the past few days at the Heritage Foundation. I was up there with my buddy Mike Gallagher. We went up Monday, we were part of a big election night party and watch party and broadcast at the Heritage Foundation, and that's where they dedicated. They built these radio studios for hosts to come and do their shows from. And obviously they do podcasts and other things there as well. But the person who helped build those out wanted them named in honor of Rush Limbaugh. And I think he would have been happy with that, don't you? But what a great time we've had. And look, we're going to be hearing about Project 2025. I didn't have a chance to interview him, but he was on with Mike Gallagher, Kevin Roberts, who is the president of the Heritage Foundation. And he talked about that. And you know, you can't blame the Heritage Foundation. That's their mission. That's what they do. They research these things. So we're going to be hearing some, and it's already started. Some of the key players who were in the first Trump administration and who were responsible for writing or putting together the Project 2025, they're going to try to bend Trump's ear. And there's some good things in the Project 2025. Don't automatically assume that it's a bad thing. A friend of mine on Facebook, who's a Democrat, the other day posted something about, well, here we go. We're going to get Project 2025. I had a simple question for him. Have you ever read it? Do you know what's in Project 2025? Crickets. He never answered, because you know why? He hasn't. He doesn't have a clue. He just knows that it's a talking point that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden have had, and they've made Project 2025 the boogeyman. And so he just knows that it's supposed to be bad according to them. He doesn't have a clue what's in there. On the text line, Texter says, I think it's kind of funny how Kamala tried to run as being black when Candace Owens has a very detailed show. I'm not quite sure what you're writing here. Has a detailed show about her. Oh, you're talking about Candace Owens' show about her, Kamala Harris's actual heritage. I got you. I'm following you now. Says she didn't try to hide the Hindu part. Neither did her father in his book, but they did try to cover up the Irish and Jewish part of their history. Look, again, Kamala Harris is a fake through and through. She is fake. Albert writes, we've celebrated our victory. Now it's time to pray for healing and unity between all Americans. Let's move forward. And Albert, you're right. In addition to getting to work and doing some of the hard things that have to be done, we also need to talk about healing and unity. We've got to, among Republicans as well. And prayer will help do that. Prayer will help heal that. Texter says, hey, Joey, it's Jordan. I know it's probably not the music that you listen to, but for everyone out there, Goodbye Joe by Tom McDonald has been playing in my headphones since 4 a.m. this morning. This was yesterday. It's time to take this country back, people. Let's make it count. I'm not familiar with that. I'll have to look that up, Jordan, and play it. I'll let you know. Carol says, good morning, Joey. Yes, I absolutely stayed up, even set my alarm just in case I fell asleep. It was a long but exciting night, but worth it when he finally spoke at 4:30. Then at 5:40, he was actually declared president. The Florida Convention Center went crazy. Plus winning seats back in the Senate and hopefully the House. I'll be running on sweet tea and adrenaline. Praise God. Yes, you're right, Carol. A lot of you have texted me and emailed me to say that you did. You hung in there to the bitter end, as did I. I'm running on just fumes right now because I've gotten very little sleep all week. Because being in Washington D.C., we've just had late nights. Then I have to get up early again. I barely went to bed yesterday. Joey Goldman from 96 writes, a great morning to be an American. The events on Election Day were much more like the happenings during the War of 1812, when Britain attacked Washington and set fire to the city and the White House. When America was on the verge of collapse, all of a sudden, a massive storm came through with tornadoes hitting the British forces and torrential rains that put the fire out at the White House. Some say it was intervention from a higher power. I dare say that a higher power intervened on Election Day and saved America once again. Thank Joey Hudson for all you do, and keep up the great work for what you do. It is much appreciated. Thank you again. Well, thank you. Look, all I do is talk on the radio and my podcast and YouTube videos. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do. Just go to YouTube if you like YouTube, and just search for Joey Hudson. All you have to do is type my name in. And while you're there, subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications and comment and like it. Texter says, what a wonderful night. My wife said that God stepped in, and that's why we got these results. As you say, he is in control. Have a great day. You know, I've had a lot of people who have commented on the fact that every day I remind you that God's in control, because I think God had his hand in this. He helped us do some of the footwork, but God certainly had his hand in this win. And he's given us a chance. We can't blow it. Fred says, good morning, Joey. While completely grateful to our Creator for the 2024 results, the results provide even more evidence of at least two things. Number one, the results of the 2020 presidential election were fraudulent. Number two, the American people have no faith in the shenanigans the Democrats pulled to interfere in this election. Indictments, trials, convictions, impeachments. God bless you, friend. David says, I was up all night driving a truck, so I listened to every bit of it. I think America finally woke up and put Trump back where he belongs in the presidency. See, David, thank you for driving. Thank you for delivering those products that we need. And David's one of those truckers that I was talking about earlier who will benefit from some of the Trump policies that will deregulate the oil industry and will bring the prices down. Ginger says, Joey, you've been a driving force for this Trump win. Thank you. The fight is just beginning, so keep us going. God bless. You guys are giving me way too much credit. Again, I just talk on the radio, but thank you for your confidence anyway. Katrina says, well, clearly I'm no Nate Silver, but I'm happy with any red map win. Congrats, Joey. You helped President Trump win. Thank you. There's another one. And what Katrina is talking about is Katrina shared with me her map the other day. She shared with me what she thought, how she thought the breakdown was going to be. And boy, she was close. She called it. You know, the other day I asked you to tell me who you thought was going to win. Many of you responded. Katrina was dead on it. She knew exactly who was going to win. There's a lot to digest, folks. It's going to be a busy few weeks, few months as we head into 2020. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.